Hello and welcome to our podcast. Today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Tyler, Elgini, Emma, and Steven, who are all notable experts on wildlife in Wisconsin. Hello to you all.
Hello, Nathan.
Hello.
Hi. Excited to be here today.
Yeah, happy to have you all. Today, for this podcast, are going to be talking about habitat loss in Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then what the consequences of this habitat loss can be for the species that call this place home. Wisconsin has always been a state that has had great biodiversity in its landscapes and also in the species that inhabit those landscapes. Tyler, do you want to let us know more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Wisconsin is a pretty interesting state considering that it's a mid-sized state in the country, but it is home to three of the world's 8 distinct biomes, which include a taiga biome near the north of the state. Most of the state, including here in Madison, is part of the temperate grassland biome, and then more towards the Great Lakes, we get more of a temperate forest biome. So because of this, high biodiversity, we have a large number of species in the state. There are about 1,800 species of plant in the state and 700 species of vertebrae. So naturally, Wisconsin is a state of great habitat, great biodiversity. However, the burning of fossil fuels and other human activities have really reduced biodiversity in the state over the last 200 years, which is one of the reasons why more than 99% of Wisconsin's prairie and savanna habitat have been lost over the last 2 centuries.
That is a very concerning statistic indeed. Stephen, Tyler, well, we will get back to that sort of statistic, but Tyler was talking about some of the history about the biodiversity in the state and how it used to be like 99% more of savanna biome, for instance. As our resident historian here, do you want to let us know more about the history of the biodiversity here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, of course. So over the past 200 years, after the Euro-American settlement in the 1780s, Wisconsin lost almost approximately 46% of its wetlands as they were drained, ditched, or filled, and much of these wetlands occurred in southern Wisconsin, making ways for urban development in densely populated cities such as Milwaukee and the current city we're in, Madison.
Okay, so thank you for telling us that, Stephen. To build off that, how does the northern part of Wisconsin and like the Upper Peninsula of Michigan compare to the southern part of the state in this regard?
Yeah, so in current day Wisconsin, the northern parts of the state generally tend to be less densely populated and more reserved for nature, whereas the southern parts of Wisconsin have experienced greater urban development. Nowadays, as the human population of Wisconsin continues to grow, urban development continues to expand as well, threatening more native habitats.
Okay, so more native habitats are being threatened. So what are people doing about this right now?
Yeah, well, with the presence of advocates and more research being conducted, Wisconsin appears to be heading in the right direction. And understanding the importance of landscape restoration, for example, the Nature Conservancy just announced the purchase of 3,243 acres of forest and wetlands in Adams County. And as stated by the Conservation Project Manager, Stephanie Judge, the Nature Conservancy will keep the land open for hiking, hunting, and snowmobiling.
That's certainly a interesting and hopefully a productive and effective step that people are taking. So what are some other things that have affected biodiversity in Wisconsin most recently?
Yeah, invasive species have also begun to aggravate biodiversity in Wisconsin. So according to the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal, titled A United Nations Report, it says 1 million species are at risk for extinction. Here are some threats in Wisconsin. The author explains that the Great Lakes have been heavily impacted by the introduction of more than 180 invasive and non-native species. One of the prominent, more known species is the Asian carp, which has traveled up the Mississippi River into western Wisconsin. And due to the influx of Asian carp, regulators are keeping a keen watch on Wisconsin's border with Illinois.
Very cool. Thank you for letting us know more about the history, Stephen. Tyler was also talking about, a lot of the habitat loss is significant, and Stephen touched on that as well. Elgini, I'm sorry for mispronouncing. Can you elaborate on the importance of, this topic of learning about habitat loss in Wisconsin and why it's important for us to take action to curb this habitat loss at this moment?
Yeah, absolutely. So sometimes it's very easy for people to ignore problems that don't impact them directly. And I think a lot of people in Wisconsin, since they don't live near those areas, kind of ignore this big problem. But in the case of habitat loss in northern Wisconsin, the problem is becoming more and more important. Habitat loss is probably one of the greatest threats to the variety of life on this planet. Overall, the importance of habitat loss in the recent years has been increasing substantially, as loss of habitat is the major factor in extinctions of many species in Wisconsin and beyond. In the recent years, a lot of different species have become threatened to the point where they are on the verge of extinction. The loss of habitat places a major burden on this endangered species. This means that they have to find a new way to get food, shelter, and protection. So it is very important for people to learn more about habitat loss and maybe start thinking about ways that we can prevent it.
For sure. You make it very clear why this is an important thing for us to address. So, Emma, that kind of leads to my question for you, which is what can we do as individuals and as a community to address these sorts of issues?
Definitely. As Elgini mentioned, this is especially even more prevalent of an issue that keeps becoming more common. So one thing that it's critical to realize is how to protect this just as basic average humans is identifying what are endangered species and how to protect them. First thing you can do is, if you see an endangered species, go research it and learn if it is, and then identify it and report it. Reporting invasive or endangered species ensures that proper awareness for removal of endangered species or protection of endangered ones can happen, and this opportunity to gather more information about it also helps spread awareness. One example of how people can help is also by washing off their boats before transporting their boats to a different lake. This will mitigate the risk of some hazardous species such as zebra mussels being transferred to multiple lakes. Overall, one final way that everyone can help is by passing more legislation towards protection of natural land and essential ecosystems, such as preventing the mass destruction of habitat loss, which is one of the main causes of the extinction of our endangered species.
Thank you for letting everyone know about that, Emma. It's very much appreciated, and hopefully our listeners can take something from that and implement something into their lives that can help make a difference in this issue.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we have this platform of a podcast and we have a younger audience with this podcast. So we feel that this is an important message for us to get out to this audience and to let them know about. And I just wanted to let Elgini elaborate one more time on why this is a important thing for us to get out to this population.
Yeah, absolutely. I think since nowadays people tend to tune into podcasts more and more to get their information, we thought that it would be a good idea to share all of our findings and some of our expertise on the subject of habitat loss in a podcast, because this way we can tune into a newer audience, which is the younger audience. The main reason for this is that there's a lot of information nowadays, but it's very hard to structure it in one form. So I hope that this podcast offered a little bit more structure on everything that's going on about habitat loss.
Yes, definitely. And to pile on that, I certainly do hope that you all got something out of this podcast today. This will do it for our episode today. So I would like to thank you all, Emma, Tyler, Elgini, and Steven, for joining me today. I would also like to thank everybody who's listening to us, continues to listen to us week after week. We're always grateful for you to spend time with us and to listen to us and be in the room with us a little bit. And we will for sure catch you on the next episode again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.